mental health is something that we don't talk about enough. In the black community, well, we're massively overrepresented in the mental health institutions, even more so than in the prisons. And again, these are questions we have to ask. Well, why?
But once you get a control and an understanding of who you are, no one can use you against you. No one can ever use your mental illness against you. You've already spoke about it, so what you got?
The biggest point in life to resolve mental health is like giving a fuck about a person.
Where did you get the courage? I got the courage. The 2 words. I care.
It's Chill Will Radio, where connections will be made, advice will be given, jokes will be told, and things will get real. My name is Willis Cooks, and I'm your host. But understand this show is not meant to be used as a substitute for a relationship with a licensed mental health professional. Enjoy the show, y'all. Yo, welcome to another episode of Chill Will Radio, man. Sorry for tuning in. What am I about? 10 minutes late? 10 minutes late, few technical difficulties, but hey, that won't stop the show. So, first and foremost, man, thank you to everyone that's tuning in. Thank you for everyone that will tune in a little bit later because they got something going on. Thank you to everyone that will tune in to this show, I don't know, a week later, a month later, whenever you tune in, good looking. And even more so, thank you to those individuals that, will not tune in at all because they haven't caught on yet, right? My name is Willis Cooks, and this is Chill Will Radio, where we are talking everything mental health within the black community, the good, the bad, the ugly, the cute, the pretty, the taboo, the real, the all the stuff that we as a black community, we as a people do not want to touch. We're going to, attempt to touch that here on this show, Chill Will Radio, man. So first and foremost, thank you. What are we going to speak about today in the show before we get there? We're going to speak about checking in. Obviously, this whole topic of checking in with your strong friend has kind of always been there. It's kind of something that, we speak about a lot, so I just always want to make sure I bring it up again because what I've noticed is that actual saying, checking in with your strong friend, has kind of died out a little bit, right? So I always want to make sure we understand that it's very, very important to check in with your strong friend. So that's what we're going to speak about, man. Today here on the show, the importance of that, how could you do that, when you should do that, tips and advice and all that good stuff. That's what we're going to speak about here on the show. But first and foremost, quick little check-in. How am I doing? I'm doing good. Doing good. My week was actually really, really good. No real issues going on. Craziness going on at work in the psych hospital, but that's a psych hospital, things happen there. Outside of work, I'm learning to this whole organization thing I'm still trying to get used to. It is weird. It is weird. Like, it's weird to remember to check a calendar or remember to write things down in a calendar when you've been operating without it for so long, right? I normally keep everything in my head, so I'm still trying to get used to that. And one of the things that I need to make sure that I need to stick with when it comes to this, just anything in life, really, myself and everyone else, it's just to stay consistent, right? I've said this before, and I'm going to always say this. I'm not big on social media, right? I post a good, in my lens, from my perspective, I post way too much on social media, way too much, especially compared to what I used to post on social media. I would never post anything on social media. So what I've begun to notice is that it's a little choppy, right? I post something there and I forget about it. I post something there and I forget about it. But it's interesting, and this popped up in my head a few days ago. It's interesting about how we get anxiety about posting either too early or too late about certain things. We get anxiety about posting stuff on social media. I know me, my anxiety comes in the form of when I post it on social media, is it good enough, right? Is it? I don't even like to sound. That sounds weird coming out of my mouth, but is it going to get enough likes? Is this going to touch the right person? Is this a good thing to actually put out there? Because I get anxiety when it comes to that. And you know, I believe we all sometimes get anxiety when it comes to posting certain things on social media. But me, you know, I feel myself growing into more of a extroverted type of person, right? I'm putting myself out there a whole lot more. I'm speaking more to other people. I'm networking a whole lot more. I'm meeting new people every single day. I'm randomly hopping in people's DMs, not sliding in any girl's DMs. I'm not sliding in any girl's DMs, but you know, I'm introducing myself, opening up, you know, my platform and stuff, inviting guests and stuff onto the show. And I'm never the individual to walk up to anybody and be like, yo, what's poppin'? And whoa, whoa, whoa. No, right? It's just, I've always been too much of an introvert to that, right? I've always kept to myself because of that. But now that I see myself actually doing this, and if I don't do it, I notice that I begin to feel a little bit down, a little bit negative. Only because this is something that I told myself, okay, Willis, you're going to be committed to this. You're going to do as best as you can. And granted, you know, I am doing as best as I can. However, there's the other side of me that's kind of like, I'm getting tired of trying to not even be something that I'm not. But I feel myself growing. I feel myself learning a bunch of different things. And me going from this whole introverted person and shifting into this more extroverted person to where I'm putting myself out there a whole lot more. I'm meeting new people, talking to all these folks. I have to sometimes take a step back and just always remember to check in with myself. Hence to the show, I guess. But I always have to remember to take a step back and check in with myself. Only because sometimes my anxiety can get the best of me sometimes. And you know, it's thoroughly important to acknowledge what your anxiety means to you, right? I know, so for me, I get very, very anxious when I'm around large crowds of people that I don't know, right? So I've never been to a concert. I've been to clubs before, but I don't really care for going to clubs because of the scene and how crazy it is there. Like, I don't like being around a bunch of these environments because my anxiety is going to go up, right? What my anxiety means for me is aggression, right? I begin to get aggressive. I'm not trying to get aggressive amongst a bunch of people and things like that. Unless I am inebriated, unless I got some dark in my system or whatever, I get agitated. I start to get paranoid. I start to really look around. And because I grew up in an environment to where, like, house parties get shot up. Anybody that grew up in the hood, South Central LA, Compton, Watts, Inglewood, Long Beach, whatever, we understand that house parties get shot up all the time. So, you know, I'm still thinking like, okay, something could go down right now, right? So my anxiety like gets to that point of, okay, well, let's protect yourself by any means necessary, right? So when it comes to me and how I'm going to tie this back into being consistent, it's more so about not allowing my anxiety to get the best of me, right? Not allowing my anxiety to cause me to go dumb. Like sometimes when my anxiety goes up, my mind just goes blank, right? I just stop thinking. I just like it's just, I have the biggest brain fart in the world. You know, understanding how to not allow that anxiety to get the best of you, right? Obviously, I would need to come up, and you know, everyone else, we would need to come up with some form of coping skill, you know, in the midst of it to try to help us deal with it while we're there. But for me, the way I deal with my anxiety while I'm there, I just put myself out there and just do it. I would rather deal with the consequences of what I did than to deal with the anxiety, right? I would rather deal with the consequences of my actions than to deal with the feelings of anxiety. To me, those feelings of anxiety can lead to something a whole lot worse. So instead of me sitting there and perseverating on it, right? Instead of me sitting there and sticking to it and focusing on it, I'm gonna just go, right? Just go do it. But here's the thing on the other end. If I don't just go do it, I'm not going to do it at all, right? So me not doing it at all and my anxiety is what causes me sometimes to be inconsistent. Not even just with posting things on social media, but with just other stuff in life, right? With this many organized thing, with meeting new people, with reaching out, with all of these sorts, right? Because here on this show, like, I do everything by myself, right? I mean, I have two beautiful people to come in here and help me record the videos for the show, but in terms of editing, in terms of finding guests, in terms of coming up with the topics, in terms of doing all of that, you know, I do it all by myself, and it's hard sometimes, right? It's very, very hard sometimes. Sometimes I just be thinking like, shit, I should give me a co-host to like, relieve some of this stress. Because this show sometimes can be stressful when you're doing it by yourself. However, right, the one thing I have to understand, and the one thing, we all have to understand, is that when we're in that stressful place and when our anxiety tends to get the best of us, we have to remember what was the reason I'm doing it for, and where do I see myself going with this, right? So I have an end goal with this. I have something that I plan on doing later on in the future that's really going to, I guess, cement me when it comes to, I guess, this mental health field and the things that I want to do. I have a lot of things planned for it, and I understand that this show is just a stepping stone, right? I believe it's called stepping stone, but a stepping stone, right? And the things that I want to do, right? So I'm going to use this as a vessel to get somewhere else. Same with anything that we all are trying to do in our life, right? Understand whatever you're doing, if you do not like it, that's okay, right? That's okay. A few weeks ago, I spoke about, doing one thing that you hate every single day. That's fine, right? But is that thing that you're doing, can you use that in order to get somewhere later on? Can you use that thing as a vessel in order to get somewhere? Are you able to use that as a means to an end, or as a means to a certain goal that you're trying to accomplish? If so, don't give up on that. Because what you're doing is, if you give up and say quits to that one little thing that you dislike at the moment, if you give up and say quits to that discomfort right now, then what you're doing is you're not actuality. What you're doing is you're not giving up on that. You're more so giving up on your goals, because what's going to happen is you're going to realize that, hey, in order to reach my goal, I have to go through this bullshit. And if you quit on that bullshit, you're not going to be able to reach what you want to get to. So that goal, when you quit on that bullshit, you're really quitting on that goal, and you're never going to be able to get there, right? So when it comes to everything that I guess I'm speaking about, and all of the things that I kind of went through internally this week, is more so about defeating that anxiety. Don't give in to the anxiety, and just staying consistent with everything that I'm doing, staying consistent with everything that you're doing, just staying consistent in life. Staying consistent in life, and go that route, right? Go that route. Never give up, because the second we give up, that could also be the second things completely turn over, and things completely, evolve and get better, and all of these other things, right? So we cannot quit. We cannot say forget it. We cannot let the depression, the anxiety, the schizophrenia, the any type of disorder. We can't let anything, cause us to say fuck it. We cannot let anything cause us to say fuck it, because what we have to understand is, like, that moment or that anxiety is just there for the moment, right? The anxiety will leave. The anxiety will die out as soon as you take part in whatever you are anxious about, right? If you are scared of something, if you just go do what you're scared of, that fear is going to die out, right? If you're anxious about something, and whatever you're anxious about, if you just go do it, the anxiety is going to die out, right? You are not going to be anxious in the midst of doing that thing that you're anxious about, as long as you just go, period, right? I get anxious every time I get on this show, every time I get nervous and all this, everything, right? Even still, like hours and minutes before the show, I get on it, my palms start to sweat and all of these things, but I just do it. And in the midst of me finding my routine, in the midst of me getting used to everything, and in the midst of me just being comfortable with where I'm at, and just understanding that I'm doing my best, period. In the midst of all of that, that anxiety is going to begin to die out. Same with everything that you have going on in life, right? When things get bad, when things get trash, and you have to do something that you're afraid of, just go do it. As long as it don't kill you, but just go do that thing that you're afraid of. Go do that thing that you're anxious about. If you're depressed and you're having a hard time getting outside of the house, go get outside of the house, right? Just go wherever. If you're walking up the block, if you're going to go get your mail, if you're going to the grocery store, if you're going to drive around the corner and you haven't driven in a long time, if you're just getting out of your bed to go take a fucking shower, go do what you have to do, because in the midst of you taking that shower, you're going to start to feel better about yourself. In the midst of you doing that thing that you're anxious about, you're going to start to feel better about yourself. In the midst of doing that one thing that you hate, you're going to start to feel better about yourself. Like, this is 100% true, right? I just started again, right? I used to do this before in the past, but again, I just started working out in the mornings, and it is the hardest thing in the world, and I absolutely hate it. That is the one thing that I'm doing, multiple things that I hate every day, but that's the one thing that I'm doing that I hate, is waking up in the morning and going to go work out. See, you're not going to be tired in the midst of you working out. You're not going to be tired when you're at the gym. You're just going to be tired for those few seconds that you're up. But once you get up, start walking around and all this other stuff, once you're woke, you're not going to be tired anymore. So that's the thing. We just have to get through those tough few seconds in the beginning, those tough few seconds or few minutes in the beginning when we're approaching something or when we're trying to do something that we just don't like. Understand that anxiety is only going to go somewhere. That anxiety is only going to die out. That anxiety is only going to leave you alone as long as whatever you're anxious about, you just go do it. Period, point blank, man. So for those cats who are listening, man, please let me know. Step into the chat room. Let me know you're there, man, just to tune in. Real quick, I always like to acknowledge those individuals who are here listening to the show, right? So moving on into the self-care piece. Moving on into the self-care piece, and I feel like I kind of went into a little rant, but I'm passionate about, helping people get out of their shit, however it may be. And I have a little weird, different way of doing it. I believe I was talking to a fellow coworker of mine, at work. Well, I was training some individuals at work. Yes, I was training some new social workers at my job, and I was telling them, like, hey, it's important to maintain and it's important to protect your boundaries when you're doing this work, because you don't want to get burnt out. So when somebody's telling you, hey, do this group, do those assessments, do that group, meet with this people, do that form, blah, 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 and all this extra stuff, understand the importance of saying no so you can protect yourself, so you do not have to burn out, right? That approach, I'm very big on that when it comes to work, right? And I take pride in being that different therapist. I take pride in being that different social worker at work because it allows me to stand out, right? So even with anything that you're doing, take pride in what you're doing. I don't know where I was going with this, but even still, take pride in what you're doing. When you're anxious about something, go do what you're anxious about, man. And just always remember, dog, to stay consistent with whatever you're doing. Because at the end of the day, if you're trying to reach a goal, that goal is only going to be reached if you work hard and if you stay consistent with whatever you are doing. All right? My main man, Tanisha. You're not a man, Tanisha. Tanisha, you are not a man. But good looking, man. Thank you for tuning in, man. But moving into the self-care piece, man, this is something that I thoroughly do every single day in this. It's been raining for like a good few weeks now here in LA, and it normally does not rain at all. But it was raining this time. And I think it was like either Friday or Thursday, one of those days, to where the sun actually came out. Right, the sun actually came out. So this is something I do all the time at work. Right, a self-care piece that I thoroughly hope you implement into your self-care regimen is just to take a break and go outside. Right, whatever you're doing, because if you work inside of a building all day, right, I work inside of a hospital all day. Right, so if you work inside of a building all day, leave that hospital. Right? If you're in a house all day, leave that house. If you're at the desk all day, leave that desk, right? Leave that desk and go. Wherever you got to go outside. Find you a little peace, go outside and just feel the sun, right? I remember when I stepped outside from work, I was like, oh shit, it's sunlight. The sun is here. Shit ain't dead. And then when that sun hits you, it's like kind of like everything resets. Right, the anxiety that you was feeling, the anxiousness and the pressure and all these things from work. Once you go outside, you're able to just breathe, feel the sun hit your skin, and just take a break and just depress. If that's the right word, depress. Yeah, depress from the stuff that you got going on from work. You're resetting your system. That's an important thing, right? That's more so what a lot of these self-care things and pieces are meant to do, is to reset your system. So you can be able to start fresh, right? So you can be able to start at a place to where things are going to happen as best that you possibly can happen. So take a break, go outside, go do whatever you need to do. right? Leave that place, right? Even if it's for like 10 minutes. Even if it's for like 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is. Go do what you have to do. Period. That might cause, because I know for me, I walk around a lot. For me, I walk around a lot, but I walk around a lot only because I have to reset, right? I work in a very chaotic environment. I work in a place to where things can go south really, really quick. Really, really quick. So I have to walk around. I have to move around. And me going outside gives me that time to actually back up, right? So however you need to do it, right? Do what you have to do to stay grounded. Stay grounded, and that's the important part amongst everything, right? In a post I put on Instagram a few days ago, it said, what did it say? It was like, depression is about focusing on the past, anxiety is about focusing on the future, right? It's very important to understand where those things are at so we can get back to that middle, so we can get back to that present. And the one true way in order to get back to that present is put yourself in a position of where you can stay grounded. Put yourself in a position of where you can remain grounded. Right? Because if you don't put yourself in that position where you can remain grounded, things are going to go south. Things are going to go south. Things are going to go all the way left. Right? However you need to do. And if you feel as if going outside doesn't work, take a book with you. Go outside and read. Go outside and listen to music. Go outside and listen to an audiobook. Go outside and, I don't know, call your girl. Go do whatever. Right? Just go outside and get away from the people that you need to get away from, right? That's what you need to do. That's what I'm going to, give to you guys for that self-care pieces, man. I thoroughly hope that a lot of these self-care pieces that I'm giving to y'all, that you take part in, right? I'm thoroughly hope that all of these self-care pieces that I'm giving to you all, that you take part in, right? Because I know me personally, I'm not going to put something out there. I'm not going to tell somebody to do something unless I understand that I can do it myself, right? So even with the self-care piece, even with the going outside, taking a break, even with the organizing and writing things down, I'm thoroughly big on, doing that one thing that you hate every single day, right? That's something that I'm big on. So I thoroughly hope that you all are taking care of these self-care pieces and everything that you have going on, man, because it's important that we take care of yourself. If you don't take care of yourself, if you don't take care of your body will take care of you. And you do not want to be in a position where you end up in my hospital, right? Because I tell a lot of my patients all the time, a lot of my patients come there, right? They're so surprised that this has happened to them, right? Because there are doctors that are there, there are lawyers that are there, people who are rich, right? Never had an issue ever in life, right? But they've worked so hard. They got so many things going on in their world that they tend to just get fucked up, right? They tend to stress. They tend to allow everything to get to them, right? So they then may have that depressive break. They then may get extremely anxious. Then anxiety is going to begin to blow up. They're going to do whatever may happen, right? Your body is going to fold at some point. Your body is going to fold at some point. So take care of yourself. Take care of yourself so you won't have to, take care of yourself so your body, doesn't have to get to a point to where it's taking care of you, right? It's thoroughly important to get to that place. Thoroughly important to get to that place because you're not going to like that place when it gets there. You're not at all. So as always, man, thank you. Moving on into the self-care piece, right, man? Man. I got my main man, Marshad, in the building, man. How are you feeling, bro?
I'm feeling great. How are you?
Feeling great, man. I'm feeling good. My man, Marshad, man. This is like the 1, 2, 3, third person, man. I had from Clark, man. We met back at Clark, man.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Long
time ago, man.
Man, Marshad. In the dorms, man. But Marshad is an artist, man. Marshad is an artist. He's a painter, drawer. He's a little bit of everything. Little bit of everything, man. So how you feeling, man?
Today I'm feeling great. I'm feeling blessed. I hope y'all feeling the same way too.
Man, for real, man. So moving on into the main topic of the show, right? Earlier I said that it's important that, we check up on the people who we care about. But even more so important that we check up on ourselves, right? Because like I said, what I've noticed, there was kind of this little movement of checking up on the strong friend. That movement has it begins to kind of like die out. I don't really see that anymore, which is why I thought it was important that we kind of touch this here today.
Definitely.
right? And I know in my life, especially as of recent, right, I've made the conscious decision to not hit up anybody.
Okay.
I've made the conscious decision not hit up anybody. This is
Why
why.
is that though?
Because we will check up on people, but what we don't understand is those individuals who check up on people all the time, they're checking up on people so they don't have to check in with themselves.
That is true.
Right?
Yeah.
So me, myself, I was checking up on a lot of people because I had my own little insecurities and my own little ego and pride that I did not want to touch. So I'm finna go holler at my man over here, ask him, see is he good, and if he tell me something, I know for a fact I can handle his problem better than I can handle my own.
Right.
So, I had to make the conscious decision of backing off, right? And not check in on people and check in with myself.
I feel like you gotta know when it's a time period thing. It's like everybody go through stuff. Everybody, trying to get to their goals or trying to get to where they need to be at in life. And during that time, what I like to do personally is like I kind of do the same thing. I separate myself a little bit. You separate yourself a little bit. You see who comes at you and who check with you, and those are always the people that you should hold near and dear to yourself, and then you check with them all the time, and that way it keeps it fluctuating. Like everybody keep checking in on everybody, making sure everybody's straight. My thing is the biggest thing. One of the things that I did want to talk about today is like when it comes to life or just growing, all the things that we all go through. It's very important to understand, like with mental health or just anything that with people, almost like let's say you and me have a situation.
Yeah.
If we both know what the situation is, let's say it went, nobody talked about it. A lot of times what people doing nowadays is they not fixing that, or they're not
talking about it.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I think that's very important. You have to keep good rapport, just keep communication going. Communication is the key to everything.
And sometimes we can fall off of that communication, right? 'Cause I know for me, when I stop hitting up people, what I've noticed is that nobody hit me up, right? So there's and this is probably kind of petty to say, but it's like I'm looking forward to seeing those individuals that'll be like, hey, where you at? They gonna be like, hey, you ain't hit me up. I'm be like, you ain't hit me up either. You get what I'm saying? Because it's always those individuals that try to flip it on you, because they know they haven't checked in on you, or because they know, we're not able to fix or have that communication like you were speaking about, because it can be always that little itty bitty like crack,
honestly,
in that friendship, and it's like because it's small, we just gonna let it, do what it do.
They try to sweep it under the rug or like let it. Nah,
man.
My thing is, a lot of times in our community, in the black community, like, we not checking in enough on people and their health psychologically. I know for a fact, me speaking personally in my experience, like it's a few people in my family, I know they need help that I can't give them. And even when I hit them with the idea to go get help or seek help out or anything like that, it's like they shun me, and that creates an issue. That creates a communication
They get mad
issue.
at you?
Yeah.
Why do you think there's like that?
I feel like they get mad at me because I'm saying to them that they have a problem. They not aware of the problem though. So it's like the backlash, I take it. But that's the thing, you have to notice it in yourself that there may be something wrong or there may be something going on. And then as a collective, you can fix it, but that person has to be open to it.
Yeah, that person has to be open to it, because we don't want to start to... The last thing you want to do is force somebody to do it, right?
Yes,
and then whenever somebody tries to throw whatever back at you, that just means they got their own shit and they cause it that they just not trying to deal with. That means you hit a nerve, right? Because you never want to tell anybody like, hey, you need to get your shit together. But the thing is, that person, whoever needs to get their shit together, that person knows they need to get their shit together.
Usually.
Like a deadbeat father know he's a deadbeat. Like he know he a deadbeat, right? But if you tell him he a deadbeat, he gonna get hot. He's not gonna be like, So those individuals who know they need to get their shit together, but they don't. Like you said, in our black community, when we mention mental health and tell them they need to try to get some type of psychological evaluation or go to therapy or things like that, they fight it.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's so quick for them to fight that?
Nobody want to think they're not perfect. Nobody want to accept the fact sometimes that it might be a little kink, it there might be a little something off about them. They don't want to accept it. I feel like.
Do you think that's more of a problem in women or men?
I feel like a lot of times it's more of a problem with men.
Men? Why?
Yeah, I feel like that's a problem with men because we grow up, we got to be strong all the time. We got to be everything every time.
Yeah.
So it's like because we get so used to handling all of the business or being a strong person or taking care of the household, stuff like that. If another man come to you and they like, hey, yo, man, you slipping here, unless it's probably like your closest friend or something like that, usually you're going to be like, hey, yo, what, bro? What you gotta say about me kind of thing?
We're going to look at it like they trying, it's an attack on us.
Yeah.
For real. But have you ever been in a position where somebody kind of like told you to get your shit right and you was like hella overprotective?
Yeah, a couple times. You, man. I remember, I'll tell that story, yo.
Go ahead.
I was 18 years old, yo. I was going into your room, y'all dorm. And I was really in there just having a conversation with you and Terrell, and it's like, yeah, you were just like, hey, man, like, I know you slipping in this, and I was just like, what you say, man? What you say? Nah, no, I'm not. But at the time, I didn't know.
We was really for the fight.
Yeah, bro. And then I just did not. I know better now, like, even with that in myself, like, my temper problem or whatever it may have been, I didn't go and get that checked. I didn't check with that with myself where I was wrong. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's one of them instances a few years ago. Even my partner over here, Amari, he'll tell me, he'd be like, hey, bro, like, it just hit my phone like, hey, yo, I've been seeing you recently. You bugging. Sometimes I go back at him like, hey, bro, no, I'm not bugging. I ain't doing nothing. What you mean? But, like, it takes for somebody to do that. And then when you see it in yourself, when you reflect on it, it's like, oh, like,
man,
I was tripping then, or I was wrong then.
But
you correct.
A lot of the times we don't even want to see that though, right?
Yeah.
I know for me, I've had instances to where people have come at me and people have tried to tell me like, Willis. The biggest thing that people used to tell me is like, Willis, you like stubborn.
Yeah.
And it's like, because I know I have like a past, my thing was I would always like put my stuff on the table and tell the person like, hey, this is my bullshit. Deal with it or not. Right? Because I'm telling you what my bullshit is. So that's giving me the ability to not change because you know what you signing yourself up for. So when people tell me I'm stubborn and all this other shit, it's like, it's not, I would come up with excuses like that just so I don't have to change because I didn't want to accept the fact that I was stubborn. Right? You said that we don't want to acknowledge the fact that we got chinks in our armor. Like even as men, like, and I agree with you. I believe it's that right there. This whole aspect of being vulnerable or checking in, it's harder for men, right? And to be quite honest, like growing up, especially in middle school and high school, that shit used to be gay. Like we would say like that shit gay, you know, to check in on somebody or to be vulnerable. That's weak.
Or tell them like, oh, you made me feel this way. Even me, like, it's a few people I know now that I have to have a conversation with them on some like, hey, yo, you did this and it made me feel this way. But usually in our community, us as black men, what we usually just do is go immediately. If we got an issue, it's immediately like we got to have an issue type deal instead of talking it out. A lot of people don't want to talk it out. They don't want to expose their feelings about a situation and stuff like that. And like, I feel like that's a thing in our community that needs to die down because that's what has created all the violence, all the shootings, all the just everything that's bad going on with us.
How do you think it could die down though? Because we know it should, but what do you think that should happen?
I feel like what can ultimately fix it is just us black men as a whole understanding that it's okay for us to be loved, to love others, to show love, to accept love. It's like for a long time, I didn't like accepting gifts from people. When I first got,
I still don't like that shit.
See, it make you feel funny. It make you feel funny. Like, why you giving me this? You feel me?
Yo, I get mad. Yo, my girl got me a computer for my birthday. I damn near cursed her out.
See, like, it's like just being able to accept that or like take it in and understand. It's like this is a whole human experience that we got going on. And it's like we can either all be combative in the experience or we can all share the experience and it be as beautiful as possible. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
But we don't. It's like accepting that aspect of love, right? It always goes back into being vulnerable.
Yeah.
right? It always goes back into, we don't like it when anything touches our ego or our pride, or we don't like it when stuff hits us, right? So when it comes to being vulnerable, even feeling love or even wanting to be loved, we don't want to be loved. Like we don't fuck that. Like exactly, fuck that. Man. Because we raised in an environment to where if we show any type of weakness, we finna get worked out.
You a target, exactly. And it's like, that's another thing. It's like that ties back to mental health. It's like we grew up in a community where it's like 7, 8, 9-year-olds. We growing up out here, Watts in LA, Long Beach, anywhere. It's like we start off life, we gotta look over our shoulders. We gotta watch what we doing. We can't walk certain places. We can't do certain things. That in itself causes its own anxiety when you get older. Or like you get in a new environment, you watching not being trusting to people just because of what you grew up in, what you experienced already. And like that in turn is what happens. Like when we become adults, we still carry that. A lot of times if you don't get help, that carries along with you, that anxiety, that paranoia, that anything, it'll hinder you in life. It follows you.
It's because we're not taught. It's men growing up, especially men growing up, us as black men growing up in this environment, we're not taught how to love. We're taught how to survive.
Exactly.
Right? So 9 times out of 10 when it comes to surviving and love, love cannot touch surviving. Like, it's not going to work. That's going to get us shot. That's going to get us killed. It's going to get us beat up. So a lot of times we have to learn how to survive in these environments. And you kind of briefly touched on it. I don't know if you meant to, but this whole aspect of being traumatized and us as black men, having PTSD, right? Because when you are constantly in an environment to where you constantly have to remain tough or hard or anything like that, right? What you're doing is you're setting yourself up you're not setting yourself up for trauma, but that is a symptom of PTSD to where you constantly have to be on guard, even though that's paranoia as well. But even still, right? We constantly looking over our shoulders. We're constantly on edge because we think something may happen. Right? And we don't know how to do it because of where we're at. And that's the thing, even in the community of which we grew up in, there's nobody gonna be around to tell you like, oh, you paranoid, or it's like I may be paranoid about people following me, let's say. When I move, I have to go to another state or another country or something. If I go and do that, I'm sitting here looking around being paranoid. It may not be nothing going on, but that's because of something that happened when I was 10 years old, 7 years old. And it's like, that's one of them things, if you don't get that checked, you're going to feel like that for the rest of your life. You're going to miss out on blessings. You're going to miss out on opportunities because you stuck in your head like that. That's that trauma. That's that trauma that we didn't deal with as a kid or as a teenager, right? Because I know for me, and this is funny, I know for me, when I first got to Atlanta, and I'm sure you could, attest to this. I know when I first got to Atlanta, right? Growing up in LA, it's a gangbang culture. So anybody asks out here in LA, where you from? It's immediately it's go time.
It's immediately like, yo, where you from?
It's immediately go time. But when I went to Atlanta, and the first time somebody asked me where I was from, it was immediately go time at that moment. Exactly. It was immediately go time at that moment. I wasn't aware they were just asking what state I was from. I thought they was banging on me. But it's the trauma from us living in this community that we carry on to other places. And even though that's very, very small, we don't understand how important things like that are, especially if we don't face it. Right? Because people aren't going to relate to you. That shit doesn't apply in Atlanta.
It don't apply. It's like if you go, let's say I'm gonna go to, while I was in New York, I was just in New York, the way they communicate is completely different than here. They talk a lot faster, they say a lot of different things. It's like while I'm out there, somebody will be like, oh, like it was kind of almost the same thing, like, oh, where are you from kind of thing. You don't it was like you don't look like you from around here. Somebody say that to me out here, it's like, oh, you finna check me, basically. That's exactly what that sound like. But he was really just like, nah, I thought you were like from Europe or some shit, something like that. And I was like, oh, nah, man, I'm from California. He was like, oh, yeah, cool. He ended up being a person that I'm supposed to be working on and painting with, actually.
Yeah.
But see, had I reacted the way that I, in my head, was gonna react to it, I would have never gotten that opportunity, that blessing.
Exactly. But we have to be able to get to a point to where we can identify it. Right? A lot of times we just move for the sake of moving. Like we move on autopilot. we don't really monitor or pay attention to the things that are there, to the things that are happening to us. I don't pay attention to the fact that I was angry at the fact somebody's trying to figure out what state I was from.
Yeah.
Right? Understand why that's there, right? And that's obviously going to come through therapy and actually being open about it and speaking about it. Have someone constantly checking in on you to see what's going on with you, making sure you're right.
Yeah.
But us as men, it's like, no, because we think we got everything under control.
And then it's like, how do you, okay, so personally speaking, I've gone to therapy myself just because I know previously in my family there has been chemical imbalances or
Yeah.
issues like that.
Yeah.
And when I went to therapy, basically what the therapist told me, he was like, yeah, basically you're holding on to everything that once life started up until now, you're holding on to all that.
We don't know how to
You
let
can't-
go, yeah.
Yeah. You can't hold on to all that and try to grow and be a butterfly at the same time.
Yeah.
You can't do both.
It's not.
He was like, the process is to letting go, is to understand first, you came from this is what you've been going through in life, and this is this, but that doesn't completely always make you fully. It's all a part of you. It's all a part of your personality maybe, or the way you go about things, but it's not you completely.
Yeah.
And you can always change that. And he explained that to me. When he explained that to me, it opened my eyes up to everything. And I just been, ever since then, bruh, open. That's another thing with black men, like, in our community definitely is, like, the openness. It's like, I know even still, I go places and I be kind of guarded about people. I be kind of guarded about, like, who I'm talking to or who I'm dealing with or whatever it is. But in order to receive the best things in life, you have to be open to
Yep.
those things.
Yep.
Actually.
You do.
Yeah.
And I love what your therapist was speaking about, because what he was really saying is that none of us, even myself, like up until recently, like we don't know, us as black men, we don't know how to process anything.
Yeah.
Right? When stuff go on, we kind of like use that as a way to prepare us for the next day. Right? We
Honestly.
take that with us so we can kind of like have this bag over our shoulders, like this is all my shit. I can fuck you up with it because of everything that I've been through and blah blah blah. So we holding on all to everything that we
Actually.
got going on, and it's gonna blow up.
Yeah.
It's gonna let go at some point. So we have to understand and learn how to process, whether it's
See-
that through talking and all the other stuff.
Oh, I don't mean to cut you.
No,
but
you
that's,
good, go.
That's exactly a thing too. I know for a fact people have been telling me like, oh, you should just go to therapy to talk freely and openly. You should. It took me something like 8 months of people telling me that to go. I'm sitting here like, yo, like I'm me. Like I don't need to talk to nobody about nothing. What you talking about? Like, nah, I
Yeah.
don't need no therapist. I don't need none of that. But it's like you have to be open enough to go, and then when you open and you go to it, you see what you get from it, which is clarity on things, open-minded things. If anything, it'll help you reflect on yourself too at the same time.
It'll definitely help you reflect on yourself
Yeah.
too. But another thing that a lot of people don't understand when it comes to therapists is that the reason why it's so hard for people to accept therapy when they actually do go there is because they think the therapist has the answer to their shit.
Yeah, that
Right?
is true.
They think the therapist
That
has
is
the
true.
answer to whatever they're going through. What people don't realize is that a lot of the times, one, you know the answer to your stuff.
Yeah.
You know what you're supposed to do to get through your issues or whatever the case may be.
It's all inside.
The other side of it is that a therapist is at the end of the day just a professional facilitator.
Right.
We're trying to help you and take you down that path we know you're supposed to go down.
Right. Yeah. You gotta check with yourself first. I would say the first thing to do if you're ever having any issues or anything like that is always ask the people around you about perception, how they perceive you or what they may think of you. Start there if you're having issues like that. And like, I feel like in our community, it's really like, it's a hard thing to do to get to. Because one thing I've always been trying to tackle is like, it's like, I grew up in my family, it is nothing but gangs and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
I've been always trying to just get to the understanding of like why young 20-year-old men are out attacking young 20-year-old men, young black men in general. Why are we being attacked? Why are we attacking each other when on top of everything, we got the world after us in a sense. Like, I can't just walk into somewhere and get a job as someone else may be able to.
Yeah.
A different color or anything like that. We already have a pressure in life. We have to be great for our families. We already have that pressure. We already have the pressure of, oh, if I play football, I need to be better than this person in order to get a spot on the team. We already have all of these pressures. But on top of that, we don't always have the person to help guide us through that.
Yeah.
Or help us get there.
Yeah.
And it's just, I always feel like the way to get to the answer to that is people like you and me getting around these young men, getting these young men to be like, oh, there is somebody that made it out the bottom of the gutter, everything, done went through all of the craziness, and they still managed to blossom from it, in a sense.
Now, you brought up perception, like in the beginning. What do you think could be done in order to switch the perception, one, of those kids who we're trying to get to, and then two, when you mean perception, what do you mean by that?
Perception, like, is how you see the world and how the world may see you. Yeah. So it's like, I've been told a lot of times, like, when I come at people or come to people saying hello or anything like that, I come off aggressive. Yeah, and me too. Like, yeah. And it's like, I never understood that, because in reality, I paint flowers and stuff for a living type deal. So how is it that I come off to people aggressive? It's one of them things I had to look at. I had to self-reflect and be like, maybe it's because I walk like this or talk like this, but this is all how I was made. This is how I grew up. This is how I came up. So it's like, that's one of those things, like, you have to look at and be like, oh, well, maybe when I go at people, I should perceive to them differently, dress differently, or like speak a little softer, or like be more clear with them.
But have you got to a point to where you was like, I don't want to tailor and switch who I am for the sake of your feelings?
It's not that I wanted to ever switch myself or anything for anybody's feelings. It's just like when you get into the world, you have to deal with an array of people, 10,000s, millions, billions of people. You have to deal with all different personalities, all different walks of life. So it's like, it's not a switching your personality or anything to be around anybody. It's just knowing how to assess the situation and how to go about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay. So go ahead.
Oh, because it's like this. Like, I'll throw a gallery show. Usually gallery owners are older white men, right? I can't come in there with this bomber on, with my baggy pants. You feel what I'm saying? I can't come in there
looking like you fresh out the project. You can't do that.
I can't come at him like that, or else I'm not going to get done what I need to get done to prosper. It's like, I know I have to come at him with a booklet. I know I have to come at him like, hello, sir, kind of thing. And that's just what I mean about the perception of things. But when I leave there, I can be whoever I want to be, kind of thing. But I know in order to get that part of everything done, you have to approach it. Or even like a job interview, they make sure you got to have button-up shirt on. You got to be okay like that. And as far as the perception on the other end of things, like, I feel like you should always be aware of yourself. Self-awareness is key. Is the key of everything. Like, definitely.
Self-awareness is key, man, but it's the hardest thing in the world to get to that, right? Like I love what you spoke about when you were speaking about perception, because what a lot of people don't understand is the way we view and the way we look at things will determine, how we're going to behave, right? But our perception starts with how we feel on the inside, right? Our perception, my perception of you will start with how I feel on the inside, right? So if I'm an artist and I know my flowers ain't shit and your flowers out here popping, my perception of you and your flowers, it's gonna be shit.
Yeah, he said it's gonna be shit.
It's definitely going to be shit, man. So it's like, we have to check our ego. We got to check where we're at the door. Right. So even more so when it comes to checking in with other folks, always check in with yourself.
Definitely.
Right. So you got to check in that consistently. But even going back and when it comes to assisting with other, like, kids, assisting with other people, our age, older, other black males, when it comes to switching their perception, the way they're looking at things, helping them understand that the things that they went through in the past is affecting the way that they're going on now. Right? I don't think that's something that we should have to. We never want to press that on somebody, right? We never want to
explain that.
You don't want to force anybody to get better. Right.
That is true.
So as a therapist, like I said earlier, we're nothing more but professional facilitators. Right. And I like to keep it very, very simple as that, because people go to therapy and think that a therapist is going to have the answers. Right. When in reality, you have the answers. We just have to help guide you to that way. True. Now, when we're guiding you down that path, we don't want to push your ass. Because what's going to happen is you're going to fall, bust your face, and you're going to be like, fuck this. Right? You don't want to be too tough on someone.
That's in the Bible, too. It's like, help those that want to be helped. You can't just force help on nobody. They have to want to accept the help at the same time.
They got to come to you. And then here's the other thing, right? When sometimes, I caught myself doing this sometimes before in the past. It's just like when I check in on someone and they come back at me with a negative type of approach, fuck you, or whatever the case may be, they come back at me with negative, it's just like, all right, I'm not checking on you at all. Right? But one, we have to understand that person may be somewhere else that person may be somewhere else, but on the other end, they just weren't ready at that time.
Right.
So get back with them, whether it's that week, that month, whatever it is. You know, don't just X
Can't
that
quit
person
on 'em,
out.
yeah.
There you go. Don't just X that person out because I've had instances to where some of my patients have cursed me out before because I may have pushed them, you know, too hard or pushed them too fast, you know. But does that mean that I'm a bad therapist? Does that mean that patient is fucked up? Nah. That just means that the approach. That just means we just have to be a little bit more mindful where that other person is at.
Right. Nah.
But
That's all true.
But we gotta just we just gotta be patient. A lot of times we have to be patient. A lot of times we have to be accountable for what we're speaking about, and especially when it comes to men, we just can't be afraid to back off.
Right. That is true.
Can't be afraid to back off. Can't be
That is
afraid to
true.
kind of press those buttons.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I press your buttons right now, you might.
See, it's just like, but at the same time, it's like you gotta be. I don't know what the word is, but you have to be very. As a black man, you have to be able to. You have to be able to be that tough black man exterior, but at the same time, you have to be able to know how to be soft enough to deal with someone like a patient or a daughter or a young person. And it's like
empathetic.
Yeah, and having that, it's like I feel like that gets people a lot further in life than like, oh, I have to be tough all the time, or oh, I have to be soft all the time. It's like it has to be balanced in everything. It has to be balanced to everything.
But what about those times to where like that toughness or I guess that hardness for you, for instance, is kind of like stepped in the way of you actually growing?
Like got in the way of me actually growing. Okay, so dang, let me think. Oh, it was. I want to say it's another painter. It's another painter I will always wanted to work with. I always wanted to work with him. And I actually met him in an art store. And me being funny, me joking around with him, I was kind of like, yo, like, I'm going to get your spot. Because he's one of the most well-renowned black artists right now. I don't want to say his name because it's like, you know.
Giving him like,
But when I said that to him in the store, he kind of took that as like a challenge kind of thing. But I didn't think I was at a level to challenge him. I was really like, hey, yo, you great. Like, I'm trying to get to where your greatness is at. And he just was kind of like, oh, yeah, right, good luck. And I was like, oh, what you trying to say? So I showed him some of my work, and he was like, yeah, you'll never get there kind of thing. So I got upset. And when I got upset, he was really just saying, it was almost his way of inviting me. But to me, I was really just like, oh, you just came in my work kind of thing. And I reacted like a you came in my work kind of thing. I'm a forever like spiteful. I want to work against you kind of thing. Ended up happening is like after I had a conversation with him years later, like he was like, oh no, I didn't mean that at all. It was just like got to keep you motivated. You know what I'm saying?
I don't really know about that got to keep you motivated shit. But you know, sometimes when we're in a position to where I'm trying to seek help from someone and that person I'm trying to seek help from lashes out on me, that individual is looking at me as a threat.
See?
You know, that person may be looking at me as a threat. So because that person may be looking at me as a threat, I have to understand that. Well, no, it's that person has to understand that, you know, they themselves may be insecure in their work. You know, and if they're insecure in their work, that's just something that they have to fix.
That is true.
Right? That's something that they have to fix. And that's even within ourselves, we have to be secure about insecurities, but we never want to touch those things. We always want to lie about it. We always want to run away from it because it's much easier to just run away from the shit.
Yeah, it's always easier to do that.
It always is, but we because we learn how to do that.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of us equate strength to being strong.
That's the survival mode. Like a lot of us live in the survival mode of like it's fight or flight. Like we live in that, and it's like until you get out of that survival mode thing, you're not gonna. You might flourish in it, but like, I don't think that is the way to go about flourishing. It's like you always have to be in survival mode. I feel like you have to be like kind of zen, like in peace. Once you're in peace with yourself, once you're just at peace with everything like that, is when you'll be able to see like, okay, here's a blessing here, or here's an opportunity here, but this opportunity may not be for me, or this is, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's like if you forever in survival, it's like you always rigid.
You always tense.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
You're always tense. You're always stressing. And if just like anything, if we clench our fists and hold it forever, like it's going to eventually hurt. Eventually, we're going to let go. But here's the thing: this is called like progressive muscle relaxation, right? Yeah. This is an actual coping skill, which is called progressive muscle relaxation, where you tense whatever muscle you're trying to tense. Like if I tense my bicep, I just hold it, and then I just let it go, right? It's like a soothing sensation begins to go down my arm, it begins to go down my body.
Very true.
Same when it comes to stress, right? We hold on to all of those things forever, but we don't realize up until we let it go to where we like, yo, this shit is cool. We actually get to that place of seeking peace, right? Because being in survival mode all the time will actually kill you. Right, a lot of when it comes to martial arts, right? They're not in survival mode while they're fighting. They're actually very peaceful in the midst of their fighting. That's why they meditate. That's why they practice certain things so many times, because they believe in being at peace, being okay, and just being secure in a lot of things that you have going on.
Right.
That's more important than anything else.
It is. It's the most important thing. I actually learned that. I have a black belt in karate.
Yeah.
And like I learned that very young. Like you have to like, in order to even use your muscle or your strength as much as possible, you have to be peaceful. Like, you know what I'm saying? They teach you breathing before they teach you anything.
Anything else.
Yeah.
Anything else. Like I had this Hindu like monk tell me one time what he said. He was like you inhale. He's like, when you're born, you inhale. When you die, you exhale. You know, he was kind of saying like that's how important breathing is.
Yes.
Right? You're going to inhale your first breath when you're born. You're going to exhale your last breath when you die.
And a lot of people
like it's very important to monitor where your breath is at whenever you're going through certain things.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you have to. It's almost like for a long time. Like I know when I get tense or stressed out personally, it's like I have to remember that how to breathe. It's like you have to practice that. You have to practice the inhaling and exhaling to where it's like you feel calm. And every day, your everyday life, you should practice like, oh, I got to take this air in, I got to push this air out, and it just got to be like
you got to intentionally do that because like when it and I tell my patients all the time when it comes to having anxiety attacks, panic attacks, when it comes to any other stuff like that, right? Don't worry about the fact that your chest is tight. Don't worry about the fact. Well, don't focus on the fact that your chest is tight. Don't focus on the fact that you're having an anxiety attack. And don't focus on the fact of I need to get out of this anxiety attack because what's that's going to happen is you focusing on trying to get out of your anxiety attack is going to cause your anxiety attack to last longer because you're like, shit, I'm not able to get out of it and blah blah blah. No, you need to focus on that breath, right? Because when we're angry, our breath is short. We're huffing and puffing. We're bad. When we're sad, our breath is short. When we're crying, our breath is short. Right? When our breath is short, that's when things go left. Right? But if we just take a second and just try to slow it down, that's when everything in life is going to slow down. Anxiety is going to slow down. You're going to begin to get calm. You may be crying, but your tears are going to stop. Right? It's important to slowing down, but. In all actuality, like when I could say this, if I would have heard something like that back when I was in high school, I would have looked at this guy like, man, you corny.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people and a lot of black males in our society, a lot of black males in our community think this mental health stuff is kind of corny.
I don't think they feel like it's corny. I feel like it's like them being vulnerable to the fact that they got a weakness. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like even something like I remember as a kid, they would like tell a bunch of kids, oh, this kid won't sit down, he got ADHD or ADD or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's like when you get older, that kind of stuff affect you.
Yep.
You get older, they told me I had something like that. What it really is an anxiety problem. So that's one of those things is like you forever anxious, you forever feel like you want to go, you forever and that's attached to the survival mode thing. But it's like until all of that is checked out, that's something that you got to deal with. And it's like it's what makes you rigid, it's what makes you nervous, or it's what makes you like antsy and all that. And it's like you have to know within yourself, because if somebody came to me in high school and was like, you have this and this problem, I'd have been like, I ain't got no problems.
Exactly. Yeah. I want to take a step back a little bit, right?
Definitely.
You had said that you went to therapy.
Yeah.
What you go to therapy for?
Okay, so personally, I went to therapy because my grandmother has what is a chemical imbalance.
Yeah.
And my whole life I have dealt with kind of her being up and down, either really sad or extremely over the top angry. And like, I always thought it was normal. I thought normal families was like that. I thought that was regular. I was like, this is my household. Like, something might get broken today. Something might get thrown at me today. I don't know. Somebody.
It's funny how it's funny the chaos in the black community is just normal.
I thought it was normal until I got older. I went to like some friend's house or like hanging out with a few of my friends and their families. I was like, oh, like my household is crazy like that. And then what ended up happening is they said like one of her sisters had it, my grandma's one of her sisters, and then her mom had it too. So it was one of the things, hereditary chemical imbalance. So me, because I know sometimes I'll be moody, I was like, let me just go talk to a therapist, see what it's about. Like, let me make sure that I'm good, because I have been sad about some stuff going on with me. And when I went to talk to them, I was just asking about the history of my family. He explained to me that they have these issues and this is what goes on with them, and like it could be a possibility with me too. So what he said was, what you have to do is talk. Don't internalize everything that goes on. Talk, whether it be to a friend or whether it be to a random stranger when
just
you
let
on
it
the bus.
Figure out how you're gonna let it go.
You can't internalize everything, because that's what creates the imbalance. Your brain is your body all the time.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like if your brain is out of whack, there's an organ out of whack. Your heart beating too fast. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I had went and talked to him about that, and basically what I had got from it is you can't wake up. You can wake up and have a plan for the day, but don't wake up anxious. Like a lot of people wake up, they get in the morning, I need my coffee, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to go here, I need to make sure I get to work on time, somebody calling me. It's like, instead of doing that, wake up, get the peace at the beginning of the day so that your day fluctuates more smoothly. And with that, like, I took that, I still need to practice with it sometimes today, but like that has helped me get a lot more stuff done. It has helped me make a lot more friendships and relationships with people. And I'd say, even if you're not looking for a specific problem, you should go talk to a therapist, for the simple fact that like sometimes I have something going on me. Like, let's say I got a relationship issue. Yeah. I don't want to talk to my friends about it. I don't want to talk to some girls about it. I don't want to talk to my family about it. Who else you gonna talk to then? If you don't talk to nobody, you internalizing it. Yeah. So it's like, talk to them about that.
You gotta figure out how to get it out.
Exactly.
Some way, some form, because just like you said, we don't want to wake up anxious. Yeah. But if we keep that one thing inside of us, we're always going to wake up anxious, right? It's like if say if we broke up with somebody, or if we got into an argument, say if I got into an argument with my girl, and I didn't let that go that night or the few nights before, I'm going to wake up. That's the first thing I'm gonna think about. See, I got that. Whoa, she's stupid, or blah 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 blah. And then, like you said, the whole day has the possibility of being messed up.
Exactly.
But here's the thing with that is that even if you start the day off on a negative path, that does not mean the rest of that 24 hours has to be shit. Right. I think a lot of the times is we use that phrase, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, as an excuse to not make our day any better.
Very true.
Because we think because we started off on the wrong path, we're going to end up on the wrong path. It's like, nah. It's people who done ran track, done stumbled out of the blocks, and they still ran the race. Still won the race. Right?
True shit.
No matter how you start, does not determine how you finish. So even if you start off like shit, and throughout the day, how are you going to finish that?
Exactly.
Right? But we're so distant. We so like to believe, like you said earlier on, that we are perfect. We don't have cheeks in our armor. Yeah. Like you said, we assume going to therapy is for someone who is crazy or for someone who has issues, and not just someone who just wants to actually talk.
Right.
It's important that you just have those conversations, because there's going to be something that's going to open up that you don't even know was possibly there. Right, and we got to continue moving forward, continue doing that, man. But I want to step into the comments real quick. Didier, accountability feels like an attack when you're not ready to acknowledge your toxic behavior. I swear you stole that from some type of quote on Instagram, because I see that earlier today, man. But it's facts, right? Accountability feels like an attack when you're not ready to acknowledge your toxic behavior. Specifically when it comes to that, right? Not being ready to acknowledge your toxic behavior. It's not even more so acknowledging the toxic behavior, but sometimes we don't even know that we are toxic.
Very true.
Sometimes we don't know that we are toxic, right? Like, I think back to, fuck it, we can even speak about the R. Kelly situation real quick, right? I guarantee you that R. Kelly probably did not think a lot of his behaviors was wrong in the beginning, because when you have all of that money, when you have people coming at you, when you got your crew and your entourage not telling you that this is bad, even though in the beginning you probably thought it was bad, it ain't that bad because I'm good, you know. However, we have to put our ego in check. That's the same thing when it comes to just black males.
Yeah,
we gotta put our ego in check and take a look in that mirror and just say like, yo, I'm fucked up right now.
Yeah,
but you know, we don't get to that. Yeah, and it takes therapy and all these other things to be able to get to that. But we first have to start with self. And if we're not willing to start with self, who the hell is going to help you out?
Yes.
Who the hell is going to help you out? Not a therapist. Not nobody.
Not nobody.
Right? You got to start there.
Help those who, it's like, I forget this thing, I just said it. It's like, help those who want to be helped. If you're not open to help, you're not going to get any. If you're not open to even accept the fact that you may need some, you know what I'm saying? You got to ask for it. I feel like everybody, because I used to be a person like that. I want to do everything by myself. I do everything by myself. It's like I just got to that point of comfortable enough to like be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like, I do need help with this, or I do need help with that, or like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But it's like, it's a thing. It's beautiful too.
It's a beautiful thing once you are able to get to that point. But even still, like some people get into it expecting for shit to go right now.
Right.
But when they get to it and they realize like it's a process, they're like, oh shit, I ain't trying to deal with this process.
It's a marathon, not a sprint. From the great. From the great.
It's a marathon, not a sprint. It's a marathon, not a sprint, man. Shit. How you feeling, bro?
Man, I'm feeling amazing. How you feeling?
Man, I am hot as hell.
It's a little warm in here.
It is. But man, I really appreciate you, man, coming through, man, and everything.
Man,
when it comes to but this one last question I want to ask you, right?
Yeah.
When it came to you seeking therapy, and when it comes to you, how long were you in it?
I went for a month straight. I was just going on weekends. It was really just for conversation purposes. Yeah.
What was that one thing that allowed you to put your pride to the side and actually go? I mean, obviously you said you knew it was certain things that you had to work on, but you probably could have thought that like, hey, I got this shit in check.
Nah, what happened with me was, I'll tell the truth. All right, so what happened with me was, I had been mad about something. I was mad, and I didn't know why I was mad. I couldn't figure out what it was that I was mad about. I was thinking in my head, trying to figure it out, but I was mad, livid. And I sat down one day, and I shaved my whole head off. Like, I shaved my head bald, and I was sitting on the couch, and my mom was like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, I don't know. And she was like, well, if you don't know what's wrong with you, and I don't know what's wrong with you, how somebody gonna figure out what's wrong with you?
Hey, but that's true.
Yeah, like how somebody gonna figure that out? So they was like, my mom, and then I called my dad, and he was like, yeah, man, like, yo, we got insurance, like, go, like fucking go, like, what's wrong? Why you just won't go in there? And I was like, I don't need to go in there. I don't need no doctor. I was still in that mode. So then, when I went, it was just great. Everything was fine. As soon as I decided to go, everything just, it's like everything opened up. It was all bright, like. Yeah,
it was all good, man. So I like to really thoroughly appreciate you for actually going to go do that.
Yeah.
And shit, if you have the ability to go again,
man,
knock that out, right?
Oh yeah.
Because I know a lot of people who've tried to get therapy, and then came across the wrong doctor. I tell people all the time. I mean, not the wrong therapist. I tell people all the time. Finding the right therapist is like finding the right medication.
Yeah.
It's like finding the right girl. It's like finding the right anything, right? Just because you found the wrong girl, that don't mean that you're not going to go out and try to seek another one.
Right.
You know, just because this medication don't work, that doesn't mean you're not going to go out and go seek another one.
Yeah.
Same with the therapist, right? We already are going into it with a negative light. We already are going into it thinking, I don't really want to do this shit or whatever.
Because when you go into it, you immediately are thinking like, oh, I'm going here because something wrong with me.
Yeah.
It ain't even about that. You can go to it just to talk. That's just a person who basically, it's one of them things like they've been paid, or like they've been paid or like taught to know people and their kinks and their issues, even if it's something like, I like to wake up in the morning and I always put the water bottle right here.
Yeah.
It's like they're paid to know why people do that. They went to school to know why people do that. So it's one of them things, like, they're smart in that aspect. So it's like, I'm not going to go to, it's one of those things, like, if you're going to go to, you want the best computer. Let's say you wealthy and you go to you want the best computer. You're going to find the person who make the best computers.
For real.
If it's a person, they're the best person, or they're the best person to talk to about how to deal with your own brain, go to that person. You don't go to a dentist to do broken leg surgery, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
No,
Yeah.
that's true. But the thing is with that is, when we get all of these things, we go to it because we want to go to it.
Yeah.
A lot of us don't want to go to therapy, which is why it is never good for a therapist or anyone in general to try to push someone to get better. It's
true.
not going to work.
But
right?
those are real people. It's just like this. I remember when we was at Clark. When we was at Clark, you told me before we had the little PowerPoint things, like, you gotta be your best, you gotta be great.
Yeah.
You out here, this is the opportunity. You was like, you gotta do your best with it every time. It's like, at the time I may not even liked you, but that's something that pushed me to want to be my best person. It's like, even if sometimes people like don't see that or don't want the best for themselves, I believe that you should be a person to push them in that direction, even if they get upset at you for it. It's up to them though to want to. It's up to them though to want to, and yeah.
There you go. That's exactly where I was trying to get at.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, it's up to them. Go ahead and do that. Go be that light in someone, because someone may need that push. You're right, but it's up to them to how they respond is on them.
Exactly.
As long as the intent
Yes.
is good, like, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day, the intent, right? Because certain people push people, but they only push them with the intent of just hearing their shit because they're nosy,
Right.
or I'm tired of you crying, so hurry up and say what you got to say. Like,
Right.
we push people intentionally the wrong way, but if your intent to push someone is actually positive, go do that.
Definitely.
How they respond is how they respond. Because I know for a fact I've pushed people, and my intentions have been great, but there's certain people who've like backlash, like, Willis, you bugging.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear this shit. There's certain people that's told me, like, Willis, I ain't trying to be motivational today. I ain't trying to feel good today.
Right.
It's not even like I intentionally try to, like,
Yeah.
whatever, but it's just like we always have to have those individuals in our lives and
Right.
keep those individuals alive who constantly try to push or constantly, check in on us.
Right.
Whether it's the closest friend, a brother, or whatever. But before we even check in on someone else, let's make sure that we're just not checking in on that person just to avoid our shit.
Right.
Check in with yourself.
Right.
And see where you're at and see where your meter lies and see if you need to go seek therapy or see if there's any sorts of trauma from your childhood that's still there or whatever the case may be.
Right.
But check in with you first before you move forward and check in on someone else.
Very true.
My man. So, shit, I like this, brother.
Yeah, man.
I really, really
It's
do.
great. Absolutely.
Man, moving forward, man, one of the things I always like to leave people with is a question. And as always, I never write down a question. I always come up with the question within the interview.
Right.
This is an easy question, right? How do you plan to check in with yourself, right? I can say for me, I'm going to answer that. I want you as well to answer that more, Sean. For me, I have to talk shit to myself, right? I have to look in that mirror and say, Willis, you a bitch. Like, I have to look in that mirror and say, Willis, you's a bitch. If I feel like I'm gaining weight, I gotta say, Willis, you fat, you growing titties, and you a failure, and all these other things, right? Because I understand me, I wasn't raised in an environment to where it's like I can effectively talk to myself, I guess, in a calm, sort of way or whatever. I respond better like that because it's like, I ain't no bitch. I ain't no punk. So if I'm telling myself I'm not that, then that's going to push me to not be that, because I just have to be brutally honest with myself. I can't say, oh, Willis, you gaining weight. Willis, you being fat. Oh, Willis, you just didn't want to do it.
I'm gonna tell you, bro.
Lazy.
I'm gonna tell you, bro. We the same. We the same with that. Because I know. Anytime I feel like I get behind on something, or I'm slacking, I'm gonna be like, "Marshawn, you fucking up.
Yep.
What you doing? Look at yourself. Look at you sleeping too much. Oh, you slept past the time you was supposed to get up. Or you suck. Oh, I'm painting a picture. Anytime I'm painting a picture, I'd be like, "Hey, yo, you suck. Your last painting was trash.
Exactly.
Your last painting was trash. Ain't nobody like it. You ask people if they liked it, they said it was garbage. I go paint something else
Yeah.
right then and there.
But
we the same in that aspect.
Exactly.
Definitely.
But that right there won't work for everybody.
That is
right?
true.
Because there's certain people who are severely depressed solely because of that.
Really?
Yeah, it's some people who are severely depressed and stuck in their head because they're telling themselves all of these negative things, right? They talking down on themselves. They're saying, "Oh, I'm a bitch, I'm weak," and all these other things, right? It's like us two, we can say that to ourselves, but we use that as a way to get out of our shit. Other people use that as a reason to stay in their shit.
You gotta always, okay, that's the thing too, is like, I believe in this strongly because I grew up in a household that was hectic. I grew up in a neighborhood that was hectic. It's like, you have to, it's a skill to learn, but you have to learn how to turn the negatives into a positive.
Yeah.
That is what's helped me get like as far as I've gotten in life. Just because like, and for people struggling with depression, that's really just a thing. It's like, you have to be wanting to not be depressed too at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be like, okay, these are the cards I was dealt. I have to make magic out of the cards.
Let me do what I gotta do, get out of my shit.
Actually.
And it's like, you have to learn how to turn the negative to a positive. And I deal with a lot of patients who always think negative. I deal with a lot of patients who are stuck in that negative mindset.
Yeah.
And when I tell them they hate to turn the negative to the positive, what I've learned is that doesn't work for those individuals, right? No, because it can't. For them, they've been thinking, because you could habitually think negative, right? You could think negative for so long that that's always like your first thought. Like for me, it's like when something goes bad, I don't go to like, oh my gosh, ain't shit. I go to like, okay, my first thing is, what can I learn from this? Because I've been training my thoughts, right? Just same as you could train those positive thoughts to be there. However, people can't always think negative and be stuck in that negative mindset for a very, very long time. So when it comes to those individuals who are not able to switch the negative to the positive, what they have to do is understand is that it's not really about switching the negative to the positive. It's not really about switching negative to the positive. It's more so about, one, acknowledging that negative thought, and then two, understanding how long you're focusing on that negative thought, right? Because we have hundreds of thousands of thoughts every single day, and we pick and choose which thoughts we want to focus on. We pick and choose which thoughts we want to stick to, right? Even when it comes to suicidal thoughts, even when it comes to those sorts of thoughts, right? A lot of people, what I like to tell a lot of my patients is that when you having those suicidal thoughts, don't immediately try to block them out. Acknowledge it. Acknowledge the fact that it's there. But once you acknowledge the fact that it's there, dog, you get up and move. You get up and do something so that one thought doesn't stick with you, right? Because
stay busy.
Because I like to tell people that thoughts don't really matter, right? Whether it's positive or negative, right? A thought is a thought. It's just there. What matters is the attention that we place on that thought. Right. So if we're trying to switch the negative to the positive, okay, we're gonna switch it. But if we switch it, don't think that I'm thinking positive for 2 seconds and everything gonna be good.
That is true.
Constant effort.
Yeah.
It's a constant effort, bro. Constant effort, man. But thank you, man. Thoroughly appreciate you for coming through, man. Thank you for everyone for listening in. All those individuals who are listening in. Tanisha, Didier, Banana, I love you too, girl. Thank you for listening in, man. As always, it's Chill Well Radio, man. Ain't no wealth without mental health. So please stay blessed. Take care of yourself. Be good, y'all. Peace.